Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Between the Eers. I'm Schuyler. That is Christopher Hall. We are getting closer and closer to kickoff as the Mountaineers will host number 8 Penn State here on Saturday in Morgantown, 12 o'clock kick on Fox. Today, we're going to talk about the players to watch in this matchup for West Virginia, along with some of the guys that we think are going to be guys that you're going to want to pay attention to. Really, not just this week, but every week throughout the season. Some guys that we think are really going to emerge as the year goes on. And I don't know how you want to start this out, Chris. I don't know if you want to go offense, defense, if it matters. Because I think we said coming into this, we're going to say one on each side of the ball, but I think we're probably going to end up talking about a couple here. So I'll let you start it off here first. You can pick on what side we're going with and who you want to talk about.
Beautiful. So it's kind of hard offensively, right? Like,
You can talk about everybody. I
yeah.
mean,
Well, I mean,
give
most
it
of them
under
have
the
already
radar guy. Let's go a little under the radar. No Garrett Green, no Jaheim White. We all know those guys are going to do something.
right. But all right, you can throw a Preston Fox out there. You can throw a Hudson out
Absolutely.
there. So I'm actually going to go with Preston Fox. And I think you talked about him early in the fall camp. Yeah, I probably stole that one from you.
Yep.
Um, he kind of came on the scene a little bit a couple years ago. Had some great catches in some games. He's been making great catches in practice. Got a little better last year. But he's gotten bigger, stronger, faster, as all players usually do in the offseason. But when you've heard a lot about Jaden Bray in the passing game, Cole Taylor, and Hudson Clement, obviously with that big game against Duquesne last year. But Preston Fox, I feel like kind of got lost in the mix a little. So I think that's maybe going in it. He's a little under the radar than I thought he would be going in here. So I think Preston Fox is going to have actually, I think he's going to have starting right off Penn State. I think he's going to have a big game against Penn State. To be quite honest with you. Um,
Yeah. Everyone's
I
going to
mean,
be
he's
everyone's going to be on Jaden Bray, Cole Taylor, the running backs out of the backfield. He's kind of going to be like that forgotten piece. And as reliable as he's been, I've said this numerous times throughout this preseason. He may end up being the guy that they go to on third and got to have it situations because he is Mr. Reliable. He's just as good at hands as anybody on the roster. I wouldn't be shocked if he becomes kind of like that Da'Keil Shorts type of player.
right. I was just about to say the Keel Shorts at
Yeah.
2014. Like that's really what it is because he can play inside out, and I have this feeling he's kind of been that secret weapon they haven't talked about this year. So I like Preston Fox, and I'll stick with it in the passing game. Traylon Davis. Cole Taylor's getting a lot of it, but Davis has worked really hard. He was working hard last year in the passing game. Great blocking tight end. But I think it's another one that if you as the season goes on, I think he's going to be sneaky and come up in some big moments. And I think Penn State's one of those games where he's going to have a catch or two.
Yeah.
He's on good for 5 receptions and 100 yards or anything crazy like that. But he's going to come up in some big moments on some drives throughout the game to keep the drive alive. So a catch here or two or there may seem insignificant in the box score, but in that moment, I think that's where they kind of slide out and he kind of can
I
get a little
like
name for himself there.
I like that pick a lot. If you just heard that in the background, that was Cooper, my little beagle. He was giving me the next guy to talk about. He said Nick Malone, so that's who we're going with there. The right tackle. There's a little right tackle competition throughout all of fall camp between him and Xavier Bosley, the Jacksonville State transfer. I do think we're going to see Bosley at some point this year, and it may be where they split time. We don't really know. Neil Brown doesn't really come out and say we don't have a depth chart. Probably won't have one till game day. And even then, who really cares about the depth chart because it doesn't really mean anything. But I think Nick Malone is going to be a big piece to this game on Saturday. I mean, you look at that front seven that Penn State has, the edge rushers that they have. I mean, they are super talented, and they're going to have a very clean day for Garrett Green. Now, obviously, he can make up for it because he can escape pressure with his legs, and he can do things like that, and that's maybe other quarterbacks can't do. But you've got to be able to still give him at least a little bit of time, 2 to 3 seconds to be able to throw the ball, look downfield. If you want to take shots downfield, you're going to have the time. We feel pretty good about Wyatt Milam in this game. He hasn't given up a sack in nearly 2 years. What's that mean? means he did pretty damn good last year against the same Penn State defense and had some other first round talents on it, like a Chop Robinson and Adisa Isaac. So he's done well in this situation before. I'm not worried about Wyatt Milan. I'm not saying I'm worried about Nick Malone either, but this is kind of a throw him into the wolves kind of a situation here. He is going to have a whale of a day to be able. I shouldn't say that. That's putting too much on him. I think that's a little unfair. He just can't have an absolutely abysmal day. He's got to be at least average in this game against Penn State to be able to give Garrett Green the time that he needs to be able to go through his progressions and make plays in the passing game. But moving on, I'm not extremely worried about Nick Malone. I think he's only going to get better the more starts, the more snaps that he gets logged under his belt. But this one this week, I mean, this is a huge matchup for him.
Yeah, that's honestly that's all I got offense. I think Brandon Yates maybe is under the radar, but I feel like we
Yeah.
talked about him enough that he's going to be under the radar at this point. But probably
Justin
underrated.
Robinson's one that, again, we talked about him a couple of shows ago. Kind of lost in the weeds a little bit with all those receivers they brought in, or not brought in, but the guys that they are bringing back, plus the Jaden Brays of the world and Cole Taylor being back. Like he's another piece that just kind of gets lost. We haven't even really heard Neil Brown talk about him a whole lot. So don't know if that means he's not going to play a whole lot. We have really no idea. They may be just holding this secret of a weapon in their back pocket right now. We'll find out on Saturday.
That's it for me offensively. I got nothing else. There's too many names, household names. I
Yeah.
think at this point on offense.
Defensively, we've talked about this before. We've talked about underrated players. So I think we've talked about Eddie Vesteranen. I'm gonna go with Aiden Garnes. I think that's the key for West Virginia in the secondary is him because Garnett Hollis is going to be able to do his thing, and I feel very confident going in that he's going to be able to match up well against whoever he's covering. He's played Penn State before. He's played the highest level of football before coming from the Big Ten. Aiden Garnes, it's a pretty big step up from Duquesne. Now, he did well against West Virginia in that matchup last year. He made some plays in that game. There's a reason why West Virginia went out and got him. I think it was like what, almost 2 weeks into fall camp, and the coaches are like, yeah, he hasn't even given up a catch yet. So there's reason to believe that Garnes is going to be ready to go for this one. But again, it's those big jumps. Kind of the same thing with Nick Malone, where he was a former walk on. He was just kind of a depth piece that kind of got plugged in and got some playing time. But this is a big step for him going up every single play against a first round pick. Now you go to the defensive side and Aiden Garnes, and it's a similar situation where it's a step up in competition. He's logged a ton of reps, but now it's just against higher competition. How does he handle it? If he can hold his own in this game, I really like West Virginia's chances on that side.
I don't know if he's going to be a stat grabber, but I think he will make an impact Penn State as well. But Fatuma Malba, Penn
Yeah.
State transfer,
He's our
big
favorite name, right? I think that's our favorite player on
oh
here.
yeah, Moba. But he's a big kid. He's going to eat up a lot of space. He's going to be one of the guys that really makes room for someone like Eddie V, and guys like Tyron Bradley to get in the backfield. He's going to eat up probably two offensive lineman most of the game. So
High French.
he's going to be underappreciated from a statistical standpoint, but the staff and I think that they always do a really good job of recognizing these guys in press conferences. So I think it's a name that you're going to be hearing a lot this season. Just from a press conference standpoint, the appreciation that he's going to have of how much space he eats up in the middle. And then kind of on the flip side of it, not the flip side, but his counterpart, TJ Jackson, different kind of defensive
Yeah.
lineman. Transfer from Troy, more explosive in the middle. I think he's going to make a big impact throughout this season as well. Again, I don't know how much. I'm not going to put a sack total on him, but he's going to be a very disruptive. I think he's going to be disruptive in the backfield and get stronger and get as he gets more comfortable with what they're asking him to do in this defense. I think those two guys up front. Again, I've probably said it to death. This defensive line's underrated right now. And I think that's a name that's going to continue to rise as the season comes along.
I know we're kind of going with this underdog theme here, but I'm gonna go to more of a household name, but he only played 4 games last year, so it's still to be determined. But I'm going with Trey Lathan. This is huge for West Virginia to get him back in this game. He played 4 games last year before he had that very scary injury out at TCU, the broken tibia, ended his redshirt freshman season. Before that, he was playing, I think, on pace to be an all-league player. I mean, he was just making plays left and right. He ended up leading the team, although only playing 4 games, in QB hurries and QB hits. That's special. Getting that guy back is going to be huge for this defense. Now, what's he going to look like come game one? I don't really know. It doesn't seem like the coaching staff's really concerned about the injury and him coming off of that. It seems like they feel very confident about where he's at mentally and physically. So as long as he's past that, that's the biggest hurdle for me is just can he get over that when he gets out there, is it's kind of pop into his head again. If he can get past that and just fly around like we saw in those first 4 games last year, that's going to be an X factor, not only just for this game against Penn State. Like we said, we're thinking long term here too. That's going to be huge for this defense.
Yeah, I'll be quick on this one because I've talked about him a lot. Josiah Trotter.
Yeah. He's your favorite. He's
He
like the
is my
little
favorite right now.
refrigerator.
He is my favorite right now. I'm just really excited to see him play. I don't think there's been a linebacker like this quite a while in Morgantown, and I like Lee Koba a lot. I thought he was really good, but I think he's at another level. I think it's going to still take, he hasn't played a college game yet. It's probably going to take him a little. He's either going to be immediate impact. I think he will be an impact, but say I don't know if it'll be first quarter, second quarter, but this kid's going to be. I think this kid has the makings of something special. But um, I kind of want Anthony Edwards. I think he's made um,
Wilson?
Anthony was sorry. I'm
Yeah.
thinking basketball all of a sudden. Not even
That'd be
West
a hell of
Virginia
a pickup
basketball.
for
Yeah,
Darren
that'd be great.
DeVries.
Anthony Wilson. I think he's made strides this season. I think it's a guy that can kind of set the tone as far as physicality, as far as as hard as they're allowed to hit in the secondary
Yeah.
legally. I think he can kind of set the tone for them on the back end as far as that's concerned. And where Hollis can set the physicality up front with press coverage, I think he can do it on the back end. I think that's a name. I don't want to say Joseph. Why can't I think of his first name?
Carl.
Carl Joseph.
The
Uh,
name's just
can't be
not
can't
coming
be
with
that
you right now.
kid. Can't be that kid. All right, like game totally changed, but I think he can set that kind of tone for the defense.
Yeah, a lot of names that we can throw out there again. Jaheim White, CJ Donaldson, Garrett Green. Yeah, we all know those guys, but this is a little bit more of a deeper look into who will probably play a big role in this week's game against Penn State. It's going to take everybody. And I don't know that it's going to be one heroic effort. I don't think it's going to be, oh man, Jaheim White ran for 250 yards today, and that's why West Virginia upset number 8 Penn State. No. For them to be able to pull this game off, they're going to need probably upwards of 35 to 40 players playing at an extremely high level and playing flawless football in terms of the turnovers. You can't beat yourself with penalties. We've talked about this a million times. Discipline is a very big thing for Neil Brown. They kind of shored that area up of their game, I guess you could say, last year. If that carries over, then you're in good shape. Shrink the game, who knows what happens when the game gets into the fourth quarter when the game's in Morgantown this year. So a lot of interesting things to kind of watch for in this game. Tomorrow we will talk more about that. Some things to watch on both sides of the ball, kind of the keys to the game, if you will. And on Thursday, it'll be the Walkthrough Game Day show with Eugene and I breaking down the game even further, making our picks, also talking some other things around college football. So make sure you hit that subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI to get that notification when our show drops. You can follow us on X at SI_WView, and we'll also have the post-game show here on Saturday as well. So thank you guys for watching. For Christopher Hall, I'm Schuyler Callihan. We'll see you back here tomorrow on Between Ears.